So today we have, I have three other creators with me, and we're going to spend the next 40 minutes, I think, 35, 40 minutes, talking about how our ideas came to us, how we nurtured them, and how we, introduce them to the world, right? How we kick them out the nest, how they get their wings and fly and end up all beautiful, right? On our table or on the comic book store shelves or the bookstore shelves, wherever we are. So in no order, no specific order, we're gonna run down, and I forget which brother you are. Alex to Rebecca to Ray. I know the brothers' names.
That hurt me.
Oh, but they're are y'all fraternal?
No, 4 years.
4 years apart. Okay,
So sure.
They're both very kind.
And you're the
very
older one,
talented,
right?
so-
Thank you.
You're the older brother?
I'm the younger, so.
The younger. All right, so this is a team, and they do look alike, but we all see them together, right? Once in a while, you might see one without the other, but 99.9% they're together. One writes, you're the writer, and the other one draws, and so he's going to introduce himself, and then we also have Rebecca, and I forget your last name. Rebecca, what's your last name? Prowenza. And then we have Ray, who's probably the newbie on the block. He's the first to one of my panels, which I call the Monster Panel. And I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then from there we'll start talking about our stories. So just run through, and then on the second run you will pick one of your stories, and then just in a quick brief, keep everything brief because we want to get as many comments as possible. And I say that because I'm not brief.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, give them a quick introduction to who you are. Start off, Alex, and then we'll go back and talk about one of our stories.
Hello everyone, I'm Alexander McCarty. I live in Miami. I live with my family and going out in nature. I started writing when I was 12 years old in middle school because I had a lot of free time. And I'm like, you know what, let me do something with my free time. And then I got addicted. I've now been vegan for 10 years, and I have a unique perspective I like to share with other people. And I mostly write dark fantasy, not because I like dark stuff, but because I like to be unrestricted.
All right, Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Prowenza. I have 6 books published. I write young adult fiction, mostly sci-fi and horror. I started writing when I was in middle school, and being born with autism, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up. I was bullied a lot. The only way I knew how to process was the one that started it all. And I've been branching out. I'm having 6 books. I'm having an indie animation series coming out soon. And I have a graphic novel series that are in the making as well.
And I'll tell you, having known her for the last few years, instead of saying hello to you, she'll say, "Hey Jeff, I got a new book." and that's a beautiful thing because it's like you're proud. No, I mean, that's her salutation. All right, that's her hello, that's her goodbye. But it's reflective because I feel like saying the same thing to her. Like, hey, I got a new book too. So she's always like, well, all right, Ray.
What's up, guys? It's Ray. So I'm a self-published illustrator, author as well, and I've made my own comic book series, and I've published it myself and tried to see exactly how it is I can market it and place it in non-traditional sales ventures and stuff. And it's really just about a story that I kind of made ever since I was in middle school, something I've been working on ever since I was a young kid, really, and trying to help develop that idea into something that's more well-rounded and more established. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for coming out, and I guess we'll begin.
All right, so I'm going to introduce myself and then roll into my answer to the first question and sort of model it for you all to show you how you can answer it or whatever. My name is Jeff Carroll. I'm a writer, filmmaker, author of novels, science fiction and horror, and also comic books. I don't know the count. I think my count on books is 15. I know my count on Tubi movies or movies that are streaming is 6. And my comic books are probably at 15, 20 now. So I'm doing pretty good. My latest book, The Last Harlemite, is kind of, they all feel like hustle stories, right? When I say a hustle story, a story that you get in the middle of the night, you get unexpectedly, and you say, no way, this can be a book, this can be a thing. And I had written a series called the Harlem Shake. It started in 2016, and it was about an earthquake that hit New York City. And I got up to book 3, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with Deathland series. It's a post-apocalyptic monthly book series, about 50,000, 60,000 words monthly, right? And it ran in the 70s, but it's got this amazing history. And if you ever listen to audiobooks, they were the first books to be on audio theater. So we have audiobooks now, but when you hear gunshots, car, train, trunk, tank rolling, that's Deathland, right? And they're the best audiobooks. So if you ever go to a used bookstore or look online, get you a Deathland book, and it's a different audiobook. Anyway, the quarantine hit, and I was like, dang, I can't really release a book without book fairs and physical events, book signings or anything like that. So I was like, this Kickstarter thing came out, and I said, wow, let me see if I can start doing my books on Kickstarter. And what book could I do? So I did a couple of Kickstarters, and they were really good. And I said, wow, let me actually write a full series. And this series came out as a 1 issue. But when I finished it, the illustrator worked so well, he's from the Philippines, that I decided to write 3 more issues and bring it up to a full-size graphic novel. And when I finished that, I took it to Comic-Con, printed out a few copies of it on Kinko's expensive style, right? And I walked around, and I actually got 3 offers. And I went with Red 5 because they were talking about getting it out in stores. And from there, it was just like marketing. I had already come up with the Akira themed cover, and I had already had 4 other covers for the different book releases. So it was just that type of thing, and it tied into my Harlem Shake series because the Harlem Shake was an earthquake that hit New York, and then it moved to a post-apocalyptic survivalist story taking place in West Pennsylvania. And I had realized that I destroyed New York too fast, and I wanted to tell more stories of what it was like in New York. And so that empty hole became The Last Harlemite. And from there, it worked, and I nurtured it. I told a few people about it. I did research. I watched Akira. I took some ideas of what it would be like in a post-apocalyptic world. It was just like researching a title, where I didn't want to step on other people's titles. So I kept it moving. Now, mind you, anytime y'all want to ask a question, we can ask questions of each other as you go, so be mindful of that. Somebody might interrupt you with a question.
Was it really the Harlem Shake? Is that? Could you say that? I imagine the dance.
The Harlem Shake was a popular dance. At the time, it was dying when I came out with the title. But there's a fault line in New York, right on 125th Street, which is like the most popular street in New York, or at least in Harlem, 42nd Street, 34th Street, 125th Street. That's it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So I said, the title works. And then there's a milkshake store in Harlem called the Harlem Shake. So I contacted them, and I did a book signing. And I actually haven't been there. That was in 2016. So I'm going to go back with The Last Harlemite and see if they can do a signing there. But really, that was all it is. It came up with an idea. You know, the first one was an idea as well. They're all ideas. And I just decided this one has enough legs that I can write enough story for it. Sometimes the ideas in science fiction are just short stories, but this one I felt I could really go. And it came out in August and ran through November. So that's it. I went 3.5 minutes. So watch your time. But yeah, if you have any questions, you can ask me now, or we'll go and hear Alex. I don't know what he wants. Like I said, I have other books, but as the panel go on, I'll share. So pick one book and kind of walk us through it. Take 4 minutes. I'll give you 4 minutes.
Okay, well, quick question. What are you working on right now, though?
Well, this right now, I consider still working a book trying to sell it. So I haven't sold out yet.
That's really how it is, too.
We printed 1,000 copies in China, and They didn't all sell in Diamond distribution, so I have to do the rest at Comic Cons. My other series, Planet Keebaline, just finished. This Thursday I got the 4th book, so I haven't really even put the marketing together. That was a Kickstarter book, so I also have to fulfill the rewards. But I have enough copies, I brought enough here that if I sell all of these here, I'll still have enough fulfillment. And the one that I'm working on now is Fingernails, and this illustrator is on book 4, and it's going to book 5. So we're halfway through book 4, and then book 5, and plus I have a project with Ray and other people. But that just so that you see the series of what I have here. Any other questions? Feel free. All right. So Alex, which one of your babies you want to walk us through?
XP8, of course.
All right. Go for it.
Can you guys hear me? It's a little muffled, right?
Nah, the speaker is pointing out to them, so we don't have a monitor.
Okay. So like I said, I started writing in middle school. I saw this movie called Pokemon, the first movie, and I was like, why is Mewtwo such a jerk to the Pokemon? He's murdering them. So I was like, what if he actually cared? So that's how it started. And that's the thing, like, the idea was, just to throw a twist on something. And it just kept evolving and evolving. After the first book, everyone's basically in the afterlife. So we're exploring a brand new heaven, hell, and purgatory from my perspective. And then I have this whole battle between the gods and how someone ascends to godhood and what the rules are of killing a god. And the series just exploded to the point where I have 15 books in it and over 200 characters. So yeah, a small idea can definitely grow.
Did you think in the beginning that, did you come up with the title first or the story, and did it feel like this is the $1 million, hey mom, I'm gonna buy you a house type idea? What was it?
Well, originally it was just like a fan fiction of Mewtwo being like an actual good person. So it was like called Cyber Mewtwo, and then eventually I'm like, okay. Once I actually started writing it, I already decided it was going to be original, so I made the characters.
And then it's a little like Five Nights at Freddy's where there's 120 characters to count.
There's like 200 plus characters, and they all fight too, because I watch a lot of anime where the characters just sit on the sidelines and talk crap. I'm like, if they could fight, that wouldn't happen. so they had some abilities.
Your story, like my Last Holomite, started as a novel.
Yeah.
And now it's a graphic novel. Yours started off as a novel.
Yeah.
And then it went to...
Well, it was literally a notebook I wrote in during lunchtime. I would just finish my food really quick.
But you didn't sell that?
Teacher. No. I typed it up during college. I published during college.
Okay.
And I had 15 books written. I haven't published them all. I have like 5 now. And I finished the first 3 arcs. And
so the first one was a novel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do any graphic novels based on those characters? Because I know
I have one currently, but the series is very complicated. I mean, the main character is not human. So just drawing him is a lot. So we've been going through different artists. It's been a little difficult. Main character's been really straightforward because we got one artist who's just plowing through it. You can do a chapter a week sometimes. Wow. He's insane. Let's see 20 pages some days.
But that's black and white and color?
I have color. Full color.
It's all color.
Yeah. And we have 42 chapters in this, so we have like a bunch of mangas to publish for this. And now we're working on a Monster Girl story because we just look better than we've gotten so far. So yeah, I just want to write the best of the best is my goal.
After your first book, right?
Mm-hmm.
How long was it before you came up with the second book?
I wrote both. I did my 3rd book during the summer break program in my school.
Did your first book come out?
Books a year.
Did that first book come out before you started writing?
Not until college.
Right. So how long did it take you to write that first book?
I'd say 6 months in my first book. Yeah, in middle school, something like that. By the time I was done in high school, I had 12 books written, so it was pretty crazy. I would write like 3 to 4 books a year.
And so how long in between books? You start a book?
As soon as I finish.
Do you write simultaneous?
As soon as I finish. Within a week. I usually give myself like a week break sometimes. But yeah.
Okay, so you break off. And then how much time? Right, and then editing. Do you go back and edit before you start writing the next book?
Way back when, no, I didn't. But once I started writing and typing them, I got editing and all that. Yeah.
Okay, and then you start writing the next book.
Yeah, and now I'm doing multiple series at the same time. So I'm like working on Monster Princess Trials, and I'm mentioning all these different comics, and we have like 5 different comic lines. And it's a lot, but it's really fun. So I always have something fun to do.
We've got 1 more minute in your 4 minutes, right? Any of y'all have any questions for me?
It really came from like a place of trying to experiment with your stories and stuff too, right? It was just kind of trying to put pencil on paper, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would write entire sections. So I do originally it was like 8 chapters a book because each one was 25 pages. And I would put chapter titles, and that's basically a really quick way for me doing notes to plan out the entire chapter ahead of time. So I would have most of the book already planned in my head, and things would change occasionally, but not too much.
Now, you said your book was inspired by Pokemon?
Yeah.
All right.
Not because I love Pokemon, because it pissed me off.
Right. Listen, one of my
It's funny, but it's true.
one of my first book that I wrote just for books, because I was adapting a lot of my screenplays early on, was because of my frustration with the movie The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. And I was like, man, I grew up, we used to greet each other with the term Hotep. And they made Hotep a demon. And I was like, dang, he's a multi-genius, so I responded, and I never really made it about Hotep, but the whole story was inspired by that. So my question, the last question, because we got to give Rebecca her time, her 4 minutes or whatever. Have you come up with cards for all of your characters? Because Pokemon is a card game, son. You wrote.
No.
Come on, slow rolling.
Eventually, you're making a good card game.
Come on.
No, I could eventually, but
And the reason why I say that is next week
One Piece is doing it now.
we have a thing called spring break, and I'm a school teacher, and so that means you get to write crazy as a writer.
Yeah.
If you have any time of vacation from a day job for a writer is like, are you going to be all right? You're going to write crazy because now you can write 24 hours. So what I'm writing is my role-playing book, and I promised it in my Kickstarter award, but it was very hard to find a format for it. And I'm going to tackle all of that, and I'm going to knock it out in a week. And the goal is to format all the characters from the series into a universal role-playing book. So that way they can be a companion to D&D. So any game master can say, hey, you want to use some characters from A Planet of Keebelon, you can. I think that same thing can be done with your characters. And I know you rushed through your books. I'm sorry, Rebecca, this is going to be a question for you too, but I think you do a better job than Al's and his brother, is sometimes we write so much, we never give our children breathing space. It's like, I realized I did a banner for this book, but all of my comic books are not reflected on my banner. I didn't do a traditional release for everyone, and sometimes you can't come out with every book every month because you've got to have events dedicated to it. Even if it's just a couple of Comic Cons, I'm going to dedicate this Comic Con to this book. You understand? The books deserve it, and marketing. So I'm going to ask you to mention how you market, but I know you do a real good job of marketing. But thank you very much, Alex. Anything else you want to say on the end?
Yeah, you asked about cards. I don't have cards, but I have books for people who don't read, because I do that a lot.
Oh, that's right. So, pictures only.
It's all pictures. It's visual storytelling.
All right.
And it's worked well. We did really well in anime.
It's like a silent movie. That's how I describe it. I was going to do a silent movie book myself. And guys, we're available for questions while they're talking, but even if you want to wait till all 4 of us are done and then ask us, that's fine as well. Any questions for Alex, anybody? All right, Rebecca, tell us about one of your stories, and like we did with Alex, if you open yourself up, we give you 4 minutes. He did 7 minutes, but that's fine.
It's okay. Well, I started writing when I was in middle school. I got inspired by an author named Darren Shan, and I was like, I want to write like that. And then when I got a little older, I remember I was in Barnes & Noble, and they were like, oh, would you like to do a charity drive to donate children's books? And I'm like, wait, what about the teenagers that are also in foster care? How come they're not getting books, but like the 10-year-olds and under are getting like little books? So that inspired me to write for the teenagers and like the young adult audience. So I did start off with chapter books. This was the one that started it all. And every one of my books has a little signature, a little depiction of death. This one is the severed hand. This one is a dead fish. My book that just recently came out, it has a stuffed turtle that's covered in blood. So each one of my books is a scene from the story, and it has that little depiction on it. So branching out from chapter books. I'm starting indie animation.
So let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Going back to that first book, right? You got the idea. Did you tell it to people? How did you come up with the confidence to write it? Because I don't want you to rush through your whole collection. I want you to focus on that one book. Tell us.
This first one?
Yeah, the first one. That's your first
one
baby.
That started it all.
Yeah. How was it? You wrote, and did you just come up, wake up in a dream, and say, "Oh, I'm writing a book," and you never, or did you tell people about it?
I was very silent about it. I was like Alex writing in a notebook at home, and I remember my dad walked into my room and I hid the notebook, and I'm like, "Please don't ask me." He's like, "Come on, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Okay, so I'm writing a book." He's like, "You're writing a book?" And I'm like, "Don't tell anybody." So I was like very quiet about it. But then I wrote the first book. I wrote half of the second book. My computer crashed in high school, so it took me longer to write than Alex did. I cried, but then I rewrote it, and it was a lot better the second time.
Wow.
So
How far? You said halfway? How many words was it?
halfway through the second book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And you lost the first and the second?
Yeah, because
That's
my
hard.
computer at the time was not good.
Did you have notes?
Very little.
Very little.
Very little.
Okay.
At first it was in the notebook, and then I put it on the computer.
And
then
still hadn't told anybody about it?
No.
Wow.
But then I rewrote it, which was a blessing in disguise, because if any of you guys have ever written something or drew something in middle school, yeah, she's nodding back there, like, you know it's not very good 10 years later when you look back at it.
Right.
Thanks. So, but then I rewrote it, and it was actually a lot, it was a blessing in disguise, so I did change a lot of things about the story. I made it better. I added a lot more trauma, because every story needs some trauma. Like, that's her big sister's hand right there, so that's not easy for a 12-year-old girl to see. Oh, my family's dead.
So now, your other stories,
Yes.
do they connect to the first story?
This is a series of 4. So 4 of the books connect, Protectors of Humanity. Earth and Grey and Turtle Tank, they are 2 standalones completely by themselves. You do not have to read Protectors to read Earth and Grey or Turtle Tank. You don't have to read any of my books to watch my show, A Twitch in the System. Like, a story is its own thing. Once in a while, I'll do a tiny little reference, but that's just like the Pixar Easter eggs, basically.
So, other question. You have 2 series, right? Or 3?
1 series, 2 standalones,
Okay.
and an indies animation
Okay.
series.
So, how do you market your first book with the other books on your table?
I kind of like have them laid out. Like, I have the order, like from left to right, the order that they came out. So I have Protectors of Humanity lined up, and I have the Earth and Grey after it. And once I get the physical copies for Turtle Tank is going to go right next to Earth and Grey. So I do a lot better promoting at conventions, because online it sucks.
Right. How about that?
Yeah,
How about
I
that?
see all 3 of you back there. Yep.
Amen.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
I mean,
I don't
it's,
like that.
to me, like, online is very two-dimensional, right? And everything is a flyer. And it's harder somewhat to do it, because sometimes you want to get everything on the same page, then you got to make things smaller, and it's like a menu. All right, well, let me ask last question. Anybody else got questions?
Yeah, I was actually wondering, you said there's an animated thing attached to a series as well?
No, the indie animation series is completely different. That one is not as horror based, but that one's more like trauma and friendship based.
How do you manage to juggle all of the projects?
Yeah, it's
Animation's
impressive.
not easy. I've tried it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Do you have outside contract, or do you do it yourself?
Myself, I do the copyright myself. I do have artists that do the covers for me. I write the books, and then I'm like, hey, I have an idea for the cover, and then I have a friend do it for me. Like, my friend that's with me today did the cover for Turtle Tank. I had my other friend Dee who did this cover for me. So I had my friend Anna did book 4 cover for me. So
So you have a whole team then?
Yeah, we edit.
or sometimes just people in and out. And Alex and his brother edit all my books. They edited my show. I write everything from start to finish, and then I release them slowly.
Yeah, and I was going to ask
Yes.
you, when I first started writing, I was a part of a writers group, and that was big. They said, hey, this was in 2008, and independent when writing was started and people were, like, who's editing these books? You should get in with a writer's group so that way y'all can read each other's stuff. And I used to drive all the way up to Boca. I live in Miramar, so I was about a 45-minute ride up there. Once a month, I felt like it was once a month. And the feedback, while it was feedback, it was very biased to other people. And I was like, if I do join another writers group, it's going to be people that really want to write sci-fi. And this was years before Black Panther. So even though there was a black group of people and they were diverse, it wasn't all black, they were like, do you want to put a black person on the cover? And I was like, dang, but there's a lot of people that said that. Even in my comic book era, people were saying, I had some Cuban creators and they were saying, well, why do you write black characters? Who's going to buy it? And I was like, dang, and
write what you know.
Fortunately, I even got my book to sell. I think it sold in their store, so it changed over time. But when I first started writing, that was really hard. I was like, are you kidding me? And it did affect me because my first book, I didn't even have a face on the cover. I had a symbol. If you ever look at my first book, Thug Angel, I have a symbol on it. The cover that I have now is a symbol, but that is by design, It's not now. But the first one, I was like, damn, I don't want to put it. I'm scared, and the title gives it away. But no writers groups for you, right? Do you have any people that read your stuff before it gets published?
Alex and his brother.
But that's your editors.
Yeah. I have.
Which is good, because editors are readers, but they don't always read.
And my friend Lisa, who wrote A Twitch in the System with me, sometimes I'll have her look at my stuff.
Right.
My other friend Krista, who wrote the show with me as well, sometimes I'll have hers. My cohort from my graduate program, we still send each other little things every now and then, but I never publish anything without Alex and Gabriel.
And Alex, you have your brother to bounce stuff off, right?
Oh yeah, always.
Do you use anybody else?
Yeah, I use other people.
Okay. Do you have a team
some
of
writer friends? I don't use. Yeah, you're right.
Well, I'm not like using.
I know, that's what I'm kidding.
But yeah, we read each other's books and stuff.
I used to use my wife was very helpful.
My mom used to read too.
After the fifth book, she camped out. She was like, it's too much, And I was like, you're right. I don't want to overwhelm you. But after about 5-6 projects, you sometimes get into your style. And you don't need people as much. I'm going to Ray, you're next. But last thing I want to say too, and hopefully this is helpful to you all, right? When you're writing screenplays, nobody reads those. Even with comic book scripts, it's very hard to get people to read those. So when you're, like I started as a screenplay writer, my first movie was in 2003. So that was very hard to find somebody to read those.
It's a different form of media. It's not like reading a chapter.
Right.
So you have to actually know how a script is laid out.
And you have to, you have to be a trained reader or something. So I got used to employing coffee shops. I'm quick to tell somebody a scene from a movie or a story. I'm quick to test my synopsis off. And it goes back to when I first started, in middle school. I wasn't a writer, but I was a writer. I didn't write, but I wrote. So what we used to do was we used to tell each other movies. And so I go back to that. When you hear me in movies, you pitch. Books you don't really pitch, but in movies you pitch. So I'm going to tell you a story that's going to sound interesting. Anyway, the last part of the panel is you, because we got probably till 12:50. I think he's going to give us. So yeah, we'll talk to you, Ray, for the rest of the panel. Oh, and Rebecca, did you have any closing comment?
The only thing I would say is...
We exhausted you?
No. I lost my train of thought for a bit.
That's
But
okay.
yeah, just if you guys want to write yourself, just keep going at it, find your people, and write what you love. And everything else will follow through.
All right. So Ray, you have one series, right?
Correct, yeah.
And
Actually made one season.
so I think you wrote it out of order. I think you wrote one first and then went back to zero.
Correct, yeah.
I'll do that
It's
too.
all self-contained, but it all ties back in together, so that it's easier to more accessible for
So that's good. So tell us how you got to that first book, the first one you wrote, and why you decided to write a prequel. All right, so take it away.
So that was a real journey. I didn't really have any kind of like people were supporting me or helping me out with the project, right? I was the stereotype, loner in the back of the class, doodling to himself, in art class. No one really was there to help or to kind of like push the idea. But I always had in mind like this singular vision that maybe it could become an animated movie. I always loved cartoons. I wanted to make something that would, really stand the test of time. I wanted to make something that would, even if I'm gone, I'd leave something beautiful behind, right? And I think that's really where.
So real
succeeded,
$1
man.
million idea.
Yeah, hopefully.
We've been waiting. Alex was like, ain't nobody got $1 million idea.
No, I said no idea starts off that way.
Okay, I know I do.
But
Ray,
you don't
you got them.
yeah, money
Rebecca, was
shot.
yours $1 million idea?
Nothing starts off that way.
Okay, me and Ray will disagree.
And if marketing online was easier, then yeah.
Thank you, right? Then we'd be good. Then we'd be good.
All right, so Ray, tell us, it was $1 million idea. My man.
It definitely, it kind of hit me like lightning a little bit, right? Because I was just kind of making a story about me and my friends. It was in middle school. It was kind of just on a composition notebook. So I wasn't thinking about making any professional work in any sense. But I really, the story kept creeping up in my mind every time. And when I entered my first art university, I was like, well, now I have a studio class. I get to present my work, and they kind of get to critique it. I thought, well, might as well use this space as a platform and kind of test the waters and try selling my first comic, seeing how it works and how that kind of industry really is, because I had never really done that before. And honestly, it was great to see personal feedback. I think it's important. If you've never made anything, all you really need is like a couple friends to be like, hey, this is kind of cool. I don't really like that. It's a little bit too much, but keep drawing this. This style is interesting.
The feedback has to be constructive. It can't be biased. Like, oh, I don't like that you made the character do that. It's just like, but what is a way, the character's still going to do that whether you approve or not, but what's a way to make that part better?
Don't be afraid of haters. Yo,
Yeah. There's haters everywhere.
yes,
Everywhere.
you can't avoid haters, right? If you post any of your pictures or your stories up on the internet, it attracts haters. Well, I'm
Jesus
sorry.
Christ and Martin Luther King Jr. had haters, and they were promoting peace.
Right,
So
right.
I'm gonna still leave it at that.
Love people still had haters.
100%, yeah.
That's why they have
And
haters.
I didn't really have an audience. I didn't have haters or lovers. I just kind of had whoever was nearby, right? And I would always just annoy my buddies on phone calls or whatever. It's like, hey, I got this idea, and what do you think about this? And I was throwing this kind of concept into the mix about whatever it may be. And they didn't really know because they're not writers themselves. And it was kind of interesting to see how I would kind of develop that skill. But I would listen to people like movie directors, Tarantino. He was self-taught as well, so it was kind of interesting to see how do I develop this idea, this kind of like a seed to have planted, right? How do I make this grow? How do I water this idea? And as soon as I entered my art university, I was like, oh, finally I have this platform. I finally have this thing to kind of like get the ball rolling. And then as soon as I kind of really got into my almost like second half year at that school, everything shut down. The art school closed down. Everything was gone.
This was COVID, right?
It was actually after COVID.
Okay, but it probably was impacted by
basically COVID impacted the financing of it, and then the entire franchise of my university closed down completely.
That's crazy.
So it was kind of, I was just left with this kind of half-baked book, and I was like, well, even if there's no one to read it, I still need to owe it to myself to get this out into the world, right? And it's, yeah.
And you did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I'll say this. I think almost every form of art requires a little bit of confidence and cockiness. I don't care how humble you are. Like, we're probably all humble. You might see me talk real confident, but I think we met over being very humble. I think we're very humble. And I say that in comparison to other people, right? Because there's some very confident creators, even here in Miami. Like my friend Keith Wade, he is extremely confident. And he puts it out. But even as a humble person, is a part of it that you have to be confident about. And you have to step out there. And I think, Rebecca, you mentioned a little bit of it when you were starting, and I thought it was leading towards haters. But there's a way to take criticism and use it, right? We want them to do the work for us, but many times they're like Ray's friends where they don't know how to write. So it's just gonna come off as raw hate. Oh, he's too short. Why do you make him in another girl? Everybody's name with this name you can't pronounce. I mean, it sounds like hate, but it's what do you call
Criticism,
it?
yeah.
It's unprocessed, right? We use some words. It's unprocessed criticism. It's very raw. You know, maybe that's a way to look at it.
But some people are saying,
You know, because to be honest, if they're actually telling you, then it's out of love. Now, if they tell other people, it's gossip and it's real hate. Like, don't read Jeff's books because blah blah. Be like, you could have told me that. You see me every day.
Yeah.
You know.
People read it and it's like, oh wait, it's actually good. I was like,
Right. If they come up to you, no matter how they come to you, it's not hate. If they say it, at least that's what I'm thinking right now. I may change my opinion. Be like, you still hate it when you come up to me. All right. So Ray, the other thing I was gonna say is, you know, how is that? Like, for me, I know when it's only my first movie could I go back to that feeling of putting something out that nobody had even seen before. I think my first movie, my wife had only had bits and pieces of concepts. And when you come up with a movie, the editor represents your movie back to you. So I hadn't even seen. I know I was there for the shooting, I was there for the screenwriting, but I was like the pacing, the mood, holy moly. So
It's always readapting that kind of story.
yeah, so how is it getting feedback? And you guys can answer it too, but I'm gonna ask you,
Feedback is
getting
super
feedback
important.
the first time when it's already a printed book.
100%. And just to like bounce back at something you had said, right? So it's not just about confidence, right? It's not just pride or any
Yes.
of that. It's really just kind of having that hope and that belief that something will, you know, worthwhile will come from what you do. So even if you have no one reading it, there's always the potential like, I could build upon this and grow something. So the
And if you
first
publish it, you already had that confidence.
yeah, and it's there for the rest of,
Yeah,
well,
to
not
have
most of the
that
time,
faith.
but you know. once
So what I wanted to hear, and I like that confidence, back to getting like the first time feedback. I wonder about it with you, Alex, and your brother, but have you ever, and you mentioned it, have you ever changed something after hearing somebody's feedback and said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't think it was a mistake, but I am going to go like, okay, let me give you an example.
I have one too.
I did, right. So I did, I don't really use AI. I don't sell AI.
Hallelujah.
I'm not part of it as a selling thing, but as a tool, I will use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've done some mock-up designs to give to illustrators to show them, right?
Yeah, no, that works. I agree.
Now I'll do it that. So my son hit me to a podcast, AI podcast. So I used the podcast just to see what it was like. He did it with a story that he wrote, and it was really cool. But we're not selling those stories. So when I put my thing in the podcast, it spit out, and who's this Twa-Man guy? And this and this and that. And I hadn't wrote his story contribution in the story. So the AI picked up on an area of interest, and this wasn't any person's feedback. This was AI. And I
That's
said,
personal.
I'm listening to it, and I was like, wow, I'm going to write it because I heard that feedback. And it wasn't hatred, it was just curiosity. Have you gotten any feedback that made you change how you wrote your book?
Yeah, so my closest friends were the only ones I showed it to, and originally when I made the first one, I was so happy I finished it, right? I made it's a self-published series, Junket. I was able to kind of like put this together, 54 pages, and I was really proud of myself. But then I realized as soon as I was done, I was like, oh, now I have to make another one, and then keep the ball rolling, right? So my own best friend, right, my childhood best friend, he was like, it's cool, I like it, the art style's awesome, all that, but I don't really feel like I get enough time with the characters. And then I got the idea, I was like, okay, well, I was thinking about all the kind of like precursors there are in comic book, art and history and stuff. There's the Image Comics group from like the 90s, all those people are doing gimmicks and stuff, issue zeros and issue 1000, right, with different things. So, I like studying the actual bibliography of the work itself. I think that's important.
Right.
So I kind of, I was like, well, let me go back and add to it. I feel like it's a story that deserves to be well-rounded in a way that kind of feels more complete. So even though it's self-contained, it does kind of like unite the stories and the themes together, and it kind of expands on it. And I think if you're gonna make something that's worthwhile, you gotta have something that could branch into different kind of storytellers or different marketing strategies. You know?
Okay.
So which order do you recommend we read it in? And is it
No, you gotta
complete?
start with one. You gotta start
Start with one or zero?
But,
No, I mean, I'll read it all, but yeah, what should you start with?
I think issue 0 is
Okay, you start with issue 0. Okay, because sometimes you don't.
Yeah,
So-
I know it sounds weird, but it's true.
I'll say this, and I didn't know your story was like that, right? So when I did my last Harlemite, it was a one-shot. And it was just one story, and that was it. And I knew it could go into something else, but it was a complete story. And I like writing like that because I don't like cliffhangers. And before printing, before COVID, I was already frustrated with this company out of Philadelphia, Xena Scope, right? They were notorious for starting and getting a book 2 and never finishing the series. And I was like, I hate this. So I never wanted to do like a continuated story where it wouldn't be complete until you got to that story. So when I wrote The Last Harlemite, I did the same thing you did, but nobody had read it. I just said, wow, it's an opportunity for me to go back and tell like the origin, you know, and I told it in the moving of the story forward. So it's not like it's an origin book. It's the characters reminiscing about how they survived the earthquake, but I didn't want to start the story there. The story starts with them in the post-apocalypse. So the second issue, I went back, but you don't have to read it out of order.
Yeah.
You read it in the order that they're experiencing it, because in the post-apocalypse, you got time. You're going to think, man, you might get to something. I thought I had my time up. Sorry,
Okay,
all right?
I think we're still good.
Right. We got 4 minutes or whatever. But anyway, so sometimes it's gonna go like that, where you have a chance to tell your backstories in your story. So that's
this is a separate series, but it's still connected to the main character.
All right.
It's 300 years before.
Oh.
And I don't have them with me, but I have main character volume -1 and -2, which are flashback books of the characters on his team where they get their own individual stories. So yeah, I was doing that too. I don't know about completing things, but I'm working on it.
I want to take a picture. See, our cameraman is dozing. So that means our time is up. Let me.
We're not that boring, are we?
No.
No.
He probably was up in
It's
night
his shades.
He works a lot.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Sam, I'm squinting a bit.
we're going to go in reverse order since I answered the first question first. Overall closing comments. Now, if you got something that you're working on now, you can promote that. Just wrap it up because we're at the end. Oh, hold on before we do closing comments.
Go ahead.
Any questions? We got a big audience today. Anybody got a question? Come on up. Let me use my last bit of energy.
How long did it take for you guys to get ideas to actually write the books?
Is that for everybody?
For everybody.
Okay.
One of the plus sides of having autism is that my brain is everywhere. So
I thought you said you were plus size. I was like, nah,
one of the plus sides, yeah. So for example, with The Earth in Gray, it's an alien story, and I remember I read a book trilogy. It was about aliens, and it ended with the main character blowing up the mothership and dying herself. But it's like nothing gets resolved with just blowing up the mothership. There are so many other loose and that inspired me to write this because I am tired of you blow up one ship and like that's it. Like for alien stories, it's like no. War of the Worlds did it right. There was a virus that slowly were killing them. Like you have to make sure every loose end is tied up, or they're going to come back. So that one thing alone inspired me to write this. So when it comes to inspiration, like I could see things and like take it and twist it. With my indie series, there was a number of things that inspired it, but some of the main characters are triplets, and I was a little obsessed with Gravity Falls and DuckTales at the time, which is why I made them triplets. So like I just draw inspiration from everywhere, but then the hard part is like putting them all together in an order. But once you do that, it's worth it.
Closing comments in your answer to her question.
So primarily, I started kind of, again, from middle school. Really, it was an idea to develop with time, but I really got the spark to get it into an actual finished product once I felt like the time was right, and once I assembled all the kind of the instruments, I guess, to kind of form that orchestra a little bit, right? All the ingredients to make something that's worthwhile. And really, it was something I never really planned on making prequels or spin-offs. I was just trying to make that one book. And I think if you focus your attention on that one thing and you keep your mind open to keep learning about whatever medium it is, whether you're writing, making videos, making movies, painting, whatever it is, you have to always be a student of the game, you know, always kind of like see what it is you can take and as inspiration, like you said, you know, take inspiration from cartoons, movies, whatever it is. You could always kind of develop your idea further through that kind of medium.
And adding to that, even your own life could also be inspirational.
Yeah,
Like if you have
100%.
somebody very toxic from your past that really did you dirty, you could make them a villain.
Oh my.
And you could kill people off like that.
Oh my
It's
God.
very
Not something I would do.
Yeah, I know this guy. All right, Alex, what
And it's
about
not
you?
like you're murdering people.
So
in real
I would
life.
say,
Oh my God.
Inspirational
I would
villains.
say,
Just stick a pin in them, they won't feel it.
an idea becomes a story once you know how it's going to end, hopefully. I mean, you have to at least have a general idea of what you want for the ending, you know, who you want as the characters, and once you have that, I think your idea is ready to become a story. That could take years sometimes, usually it can take months, I think, because months is more realistic, to answer your question. So I think writing with purpose is also really important.
Yep.
And since I've been vegan for 10 years, at the end of each and every one of our books, we have a little vegan message from one of our vegan characters in the book. So it's really cool. And you can always just give out to the community or just try to help people, you know? And I think that's a good way to do it.
All right, I'm just gonna say I started off my writing not in middle school. That was just storytelling and jokes. But when I graduated college, I took a comedy writing class, and my writing is very strong comedy format, and it's set up, punchline, and you know that format. And for me, there's a lot of that in sci-fi writing. So, like, I had a feeling about Kyrie Irving, and he's called himself World Be Flat, and I thought that was hilarious. So I wrote a story where an athlete gets invited to go to the edge of the flat earth. And to me, the story just came from purpose, right? And I thought of it, and I said, well, you know, there's mechanics in writing a story, but just that idea came, and it also comes like somebody tells a joke on you. Hey, you know, you dark-skinned dude? Oh, well, your mother's dark-skinned. You know, so to me, that's a form of writing too, because if you just say your mother, that's a cheap written joke. But then if you go all Michael Blackson level and destroy them, now you're really writing something. So I like to do that as well. Sometimes I use my stories as responses to things. And that's it. So I guess thank you all for being a part of it. We never, at least on my panels, I never know where they're going because they're always built for the creator to shine. Please check them all out. They all have tables. I have a table here at HeroHype. We all have a virtual presence. When I get the video from Ray, we'll put it up and we'll put all of our contact information in the description. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, we're over time. Thank you guys. Yeah. Thank you guys.